What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to the Wednesday show, gang. Happy hump day. Congratulations on reaching at least most of the way through the week. Gotta be honest, probably taking off Thursday and Friday, aren't you? I think we all are. I know I am. As I mentioned on yesterday's show, we'll be traveling tomorrow, Friday, and probably next Monday. I think we'll be out of action as far as shows go. So it'll be a little bit of a gap. I'll miss you guys too. Going down to Texas for my cousin's wedding, but we'll be doing all kinds of updates for the projections, everything up on the site as usual, so no changes there. Cujo's here. Hope you're having a good hump day too, pal. Larry says, Terry has people working like 4 hours a week. How many hours do you honestly work at your job? Seriously. Like when you're going in at the office, like I've said, like, you're sitting there, like you just get a little, like, you do something like that, and you pick up your phone and put it back down, and like, oh, God, bang on your keyboard for a minute, and then people leave you alone for like 3 hours, think you're working hard. That's what you do at least at a big salary job at like, one of these giant companies or something where it doesn't really matter. If you're working for like a small organization. What's funny is, I do more actual, I think, just hour by hour, like the time that I put in. I think I actually do more work just doing this website than I've ever done at any paid job on a daily basis. It's pretty absurd. Speaking of which, I did drop some new info into the description below, PayPal, Venmo, CashApp, and whatnot. For those of you who have asked in the past, very generously looking to kick in, feel free, no obligations. If you want to, go ahead. But I'm not going to harangue you. This is the one time I'm going to mention it on the show, but it is down in the description. Also, check out our pals over at acemind.io. Use promo code rotoscouts to get 20% off your first month over there. That also helps out over here. Goal is still to keep the site subscription free, but what I'm thinking is, kick in now. I'll apply it going forward if we ever go to a subscription model, and we'll see how things go. Not looking to break the bank, but would be nice to, monetize this a little bit somewhere along the way. So again, no obligations. Anyway, let's dive into this thing. Let me pull this nonsense up. We've got a 7-gamer. We just got the Red Sox lineup in. I just updated it before the show started. Interesting little slate. Hopefully, if you played the afternoon slate, you had the Brewers. Gary Sanchez and William Contreras both homered. I saw that. It looked like Sal Frelick and Joey Ortiz were part of the key stack. Garrett Crochet doing his thing on the mound so far in that one. I built that lineup, and then I went away from it. Went to a Tigers stack for some reason, looking to target Trevor Rogers' struggles. Didn't really work out. But on we go. The Rays and the Red Sox, 3.75 implied total for the Rays. Boston at home, 4.34. Favored in that one. With Tanner Houck on the mound, it seems like a decent spot for pitching going up against an up and down, let's say, Rays lineup. I'm cutting Taj Bradley a little lower, I think, than a lot of other sites are. I'm not completely sold based on one good start that came against my Yankees. Good comparable opponent. But going into Fenway, it's not like we didn't see him last year. He threw 104 2/3 innings in the show last year. He had a 5.59 ERA. A 3.83 xFIP, a very, very good strikeout rate. So I have questions. I think the Red Sox projection is about right. I'm seeing some home run upside on the Boston side of that one. I'm not completely sold on Taj Bradley being a gigantic asset in that game. Cubbies at the Braves. Braves pulling in a 5.24 total. What else is new? They're going up against Javier Assad, who has been good, but we'll see what happens in this one. Only went 4 1/3 in his last one, but strung together a bunch of really effective starts. Hasn't given up more than 2 earned runs in a start this year. Charlie Morton on the mound for the Braves. If you're watching my eyes, I am cheating today. I'm reading the just scrolling down the list. Some days I've got them all just pop into my head, and some days I need to take a glance. And that first one caught me for a second. I couldn't remember who was pitching for the Red Sox, so I pulled up the list. Now I'm just looking at it. But Charlie Morton going for the Braves. He's been very, very good this season. Just really 2 clunker starts in here. A lot of strikeout upside. Facing a Chicago team that we do respect. There's a healthy run total for the game overall, but a lot of it's going to the Braves. The Cubs just check in at 3.87 implied runs. Yanks at the Twins. Pablo Lopez going for the Twins. And, Stroman going for, see, I need the list today. Stroman going for the Yankees. 5 2/3 in his last start for Stroman, gave up some runs. He's up and down, as we know, but good at limiting power in a lot of starts. Last time out, not the case, and he's given up an uncharacteristic number of home runs this year so far. We'll see if it's small sample happenstance or if it's a trend going forward. But historically, he has been pretty decent at keeping the ball in the yard, and he does have a little bit of strikeout upside from time to time against what's a still, I think, gettable Twins lineup, despite their outbursts for runs. That said, Twins are favored 4.33 implied total for them, 3.76 for the Yankees going up against Lopez, who is pretty outstanding. Guardians at the Rangers. We've got John Gray on the hill for the Rangers and Carlos Carrasco going for the Guardians. Definitely think you target Carrasco with the Rangers bats, 5.13 implied total there. John Gray been pitching really, really well this year. He's a pitcher that we've always liked over time. He was in Coors for a long, long time. He pitched fairly effectively last year. We'll look at it in a second. But this year, there's been a lot of starts where he's taken a big step forward. He gave up 5 earned runs in his first start. It was only 3 2/3. And since then, he hasn't given up more than 2, and he only gave up 2 one time. Pitching deep into games, finding good strikeout totals. Seems like a playable piece. It's just not an ideal matchup given the Guardians and our healthy respect for them and what they do. Athletics and the Astros. The Astros pulling in monster home run numbers against Aaron Brooks, who is in his mid-30s, like 34. Debuted all the way back in 2014. We haven't seen him in the show since we got 9 1/3 out of him in 2022, it looks like. Didn't pitch in the show last year, 63 2/3 in AAA. I think it's a very, very targetable pitcher with Houston bats. You can see they're monster favorites, 5.26 implied total. I'm sure they're going to be very, very popular. I think the Cardinals are also going to be popular. We'll get to that one in a second. 3.35 implied total on the Oakland side. They're going up against Framber Valdez, who ranks out as the top overall pitcher in my book and, in my projections, in my book. He's the top overall pitcher on our board, I think, with good reason, with good cause. And he's not the most expensive guy, which is interesting. I think he's going to be very, very popular against the Athletics, though. The Cardinals going to be facing Griff Canning. Canning can be a launching pad, for lefty power as well. A lot of the lefties in that Cardinals lineup are going to be really popular. I was going to make Nolan Gorman the home run pick of the day, and then I saw how popular he was going to be, and I didn't want to encourage further action around the, at this point, almost hated Cardinals. I do think it's a very good spot, though. Even with the popularity, it seems very targetable. But you can see the difference between them at 4.42 and the other seemingly targetable spots for offense on this slate. So it's not like they're a runaway train in terms of implied runs. Canning can be good. He's kind of rounded into form a little bit, at least over the last couple. He only gave up 2 earned runs 2 starts ago. Didn't give up an earned run in 5 2/3 in his last one. Strikeouts are hit and miss. I don't know if he's necessarily a DFS option, but I can see a pretty geographically sizable world in which Canning manages to get through this Cardinals lineup a few times, this Cards lineup that's been struggling so much. But again, we are seeing a good amount of power for the Cards. Dodgers at the Giants to round things out. Lance Lynn going for the Dodgers and Ryan Yarbrough. Lance Lynn's pitching for the Cards. I didn't mention that. Ryan Yarbrough going for the Dodgers and Logan Webb pitching for the Giants. I do like Logan Webb. Not a great matchup, obviously, against the Dodgers, but he's a tremendous pitcher. He's very good at keeping the ball in the yard. Dodgers, you can see, are still favored. 4.37 implied total, though. Healthy respect in Vegas for Logan Webb. And then Yarbs is probably just making a short start. I've got him in for 3 innings. I don't know if he even gets that. He pitched 3 days ago. A couple of appearances. Actually, everything's been in bulk relief or just standard relief lately. 5-inning high for the season. He hasn't worked at the top of a game yet. But I don't think that's a really targetable spot. Projects out pretty low. The board, I did the color coding again, just as I was looking at it before, that I did at the end of the show yesterday, just for fun, just to highlight get a little opinion in there amongst the already done conditional formatting. So again, Framber Valdez, especially at price, considering you've got Pablo at a high price against the Yankees, you get Tanner Houck, who has been very, very good. but I don't think is as good as Fromber, and I don't think the matchup is quite as good especially for the price difference on FanDuel. It's more debatable on DraftKings, but I think you fire away with shares of Framber Valdez. Terrific pitcher, very, very good at limiting home run power when things are going right, has significant strikeout upside. I like that spot quite a bit. Pablo against the Yankees can definitely succeed. 10-5, 9,800. You're paying about full freight. Maybe it's probably about right on DraftKings, about right on both sites. There is a ton of offensive upside in the Yankees lineup, basically any given slate. Some of those guys are just the best pure hitters or the best power hitters in baseball. So it's always going to even out to a certain degree. That's why Pablo's significantly lower than Fromber. But Pablo's on a pretty good run over his last few. Struck out 8 struck out 8 in each of 2 starts, going back 3 starts, and then struck out 10 in his most recent appearance over 6 1/3. That was against Seattle. The 8 strikeout game before that was against Boston, and then an 8 strikeout game against the Angels. Significant upside. He was one of just a few pitchers who booked 200 plus strikeouts last year. It's very, very good. Webb slots in here, I think, for a fair price. I could have differentiated that one, but I didn't do it as like a light green. I made Pablo the light green. I made Fromber the absolute, fire away option. And then these guys just kind of drop into a similar bucket. There's a lot of same here outside of the price. Even with Logan Webb, I think it's somewhat evened out by the matchup. It's just you're getting a tremendous pitcher for a very cheap price. So that kind of takes care of the fact that it's the Dodgers on the other side. 25 other teams in the league. Logan Webb's at more, this kind of a price at the very least, let alone like this kind of a price. So I feel like he's a little cheap even for facing the Dodgers. Taj Bradley, like I mentioned, just, was still needs to find his footing in the show, making his second start of the year. Definitely strikeout upside, definitely some bright spots for that. Last time out, he went 6 innings, struck out 7 in his first start of the season. That was against the Yanks. But again, last year, 5+ ERA, over 21 starts, 23 appearances, 104 innings. Did have a 3.83 xFIP, 4.79 actual FIP, and an 11.09 K per 9. I don't have the strikeout rate on this thing that I clipped off Fangraphs, but I think he's gettable for a Red Sox lineup that we like, and especially at 10-3 on FanDuel. This is uncomfortably high. This is fine. If you want to roll the dice a few times from the group of fair mid-range pitchers on Taj Bradley against the Red Sox for 8,000 on DraftKings, absolutely fine. No issues there. At 10-3 on FanDuel, the way that he comps to a lot of better options, that one is a little bit questionable. He does have a ceiling into the 40 plus kind of range if he finds his strikeouts. But that I question. Lance Lynn, dynamite matchup against the Angels. He's very cheap. He's a fair mid-range option, projects out fairly well. The upside is kind of capped by innings for Lance Lynn, so just know that going in, but that's basically priced in at this point. John Gray, as I mentioned, has been pitching really well. He projects out decently. Just a tough matchup for strikeouts, tough matchup against base hits and everything that Cleveland does. For 9,700, you get a bit of a discount compared to the top end pitchers, but he's 500 more expensive than Fromber, who's going up against the Athletics at the top of the board. So a little bit difficult to justify on FanDuel. He's in a different bin on DraftKings at 7,500. Definitely in range. I like him a lot as an SP2 to pair with any one of these guys. So I think that makes a ton of sense, even with the matchup against Cleveland. Charlie Morton against the Cubs looks pretty expensive to me. He is very good, still pitching really well. Pitching went 7 in his last game, struck out 7. That was against the Mets, gave up just 1 earned on 3 hits. There's still upside in Charlie Morton any given slate. I like that Cubs team, and it's a similar situation. 10-7 is high on FanDuel, very, very high. 8,400. Different kind of option on DraftKings. He's just right in play with these guys. He's not quite the SP2 play that John Gray is, but he's cheap enough to be. Pair with these guys. These guys aren't crazy expensive. Stroman is playable against the Twins, 79.86. He's priced correctly to maybe a little bit cheap on FanDuel. Pretty decent discount option. Probably more upside for depth from Stroman than from Lance Lynn for a little bit cheaper. Very similar projection. Not a lot of daylight between any of these projections in the middle. Then we get to Griff Canning, who I made a red. It's just that it's very, very low faith. I don't think on the right day he can maybe get you 30 FanDuel points if he gets through the St. Louis lineup that's been really weak a couple times. But with who they are and what they're showing despite their struggles, I really don't want Griff Canning here unless you're just looking to the absolute discount. I don't think these discount guys are in play, so it makes it a little bit more appealing at 55 on DraftKings. But I'd rather just spend and consider this my discount and then just try and win with the right combination of hitters, I think, than take those shots. It's pretty thin with Griff Canning. He could get there. It's not out of the question. Last time out, 3 strikeouts. Kept Kansas City off the board, 3 hits over 5 2/3. Just 2 earned runs to start before that over 6. That was against Cleveland. That's a much better team. Struck out 5. Gave up a homer, 2 earned runs, 4 hits. All right, maybe I'll make him orange. I'll put him in the bucket with Javier Assad. Assad is pitching really well overall. Came back to earth a little bit in the last one. It was a short start. He's fairly priced for the matchup against Atlanta to maybe a bit expensive at 8,600. His strikeout upside's just kind of limited. He's been pitching clean innings and giving you, previous to the last start, he had given you a little bit of depth. Pitched into the 6th in 2 out of his 3 starts before that. Completed 6 in 1 of them. But his strikeout high for the season is 7. That came all the way back on April 8th. Since then, 6 strikeout game, and then it's been descending 3, 5, 1, and then 4 in each of the last 2. He's also walked more in his last couple. And the most recent one against Pittsburgh came out after just 4 1/3, faced 20 hitters. Struck out 4, walked 2, and earned run. 2 runs total, 4 hits. I just don't really love it against the Braves. Yarbs is a short start. This dude is just going to get destroyed by Houston. And Carrasco, pretty weak option, I think, against Texas. Red Sox lineup. Yeah, we got that one. Do we have the Rays? How you guys doing out there? I saw that, Lar. Yeah, Happy Gilmore too. Yeah, that was it's gonna be a weird one. We'll see. The idea that they waited this long to do it probably tells me that it's not an idea that's been like gestating in Adam Sandler's head. That's gonna be some genius thing that he's been waiting to make all this time. Feel like it's a little bit of a cash grab. We'll see what happens. If you count client calls and meetings, there's a ton of hours a week. Clients don't care if it's 8 at night. That's true. Good, Cujo. I'm glad. Cujo's doing well. So the Rays and the Red Sox. Getting into this one. Tanner Houck, 52 1/3, 8 starts. 23.9% strikeout rate, just a 3.8% walk, 2.24 ERA with a 2.80 xFIP. Pitching really well. He's given up, I think, 1 home run all season. Stuff Plus really likes the elevated arsenal that he's got this year. 108.67 across the full arsenal. He's only given up 4.1% barrels, keeping the ball down with a 5.5 degree average launch, so we don't really care that much about the hard hits, the exit velo. And yeah, 1 home run all season came on April 12th against the Angels. More limited over his last 2. He gave up 3 earned runs in each of those 2 starts, struck out 5 against the Twins, walked 2, gave up 3 earned, 4 total runs on 6 hits. Struck out just 4 against Washington, but went 7 innings. 3 earned runs, 6 hits. Serviceable starts. He lost both those games, though. Or the Red Sox lost both those games, I should say. So no bonuses, but you did get decent innings. Only 3 earned runs in each of them, so you did get the quality start bonuses on FanDuel. It's probably why he's priced up a little bit more reliable for depth. At 91 on DraftKings, he's definitely a better bargain. Projects out pretty well. 3rd highest on the board. Definitely a gettable Rays lineup on the other side. They're not super high strikeout. 19.7% for this group of hitters last year, 19.6% so far this year. That's basically what's on form for the Rays so far. That and Josh Lowe in a small sample and Isaac Paredes. Yandy Diaz at the top of the lineup, still kind of scuffling along. 3 home runs, 253, 312, 359, 99 WRC plus. Randy Arozarena did hit his 8th home run of the season last night. Hopefully some signs of life. Still sitting at 160, 260, 340. 21% worse than average for run creation, but a tremendous player, multi-category contributor for power and stolen bases and run creation when things are going right. Josh Lowe's been excellent over his 28. He's got a home run, 320, 393, 600. We'll see where he keeps up. But last year, again, was tremendous. 20 home runs, 32 stolen bases. Isaac Paredes hit 31 home runs while slashing 250, 352, 488, and creating runs 37% better than average last year. And he's improved on the triple slash significantly so far this year in 168. He's already hit 8 home runs. He's got a 207 ISO, creating runs 60% better than average. He's terrific, but you can see the limitations that Tanner Houck has been putting on power. Very low home run marks on the Rays side. It's not to say they couldn't get 1, couldn't get 2 even against Houck on the right day. Every pitcher is vulnerable to the home runs at some point, but if we're talking about probability, Houck is very good at keeping the ball in the yard. Going down the Rays lineup, after Paredes, you get Ahmed Rosario, 4,300, 2,800 for him at both middle infield spots on both sites. 300, 315, 429. Got off to a very good start. He's at 2 home runs and 5 stolen bases, 115 WRC plus, just a 129 ISO. Not making exactly tremendous contact, but he makes very frequent contact, which we like. 15.4% strikeout rate, 2.1% walk rate. Just give me some cheap bat on ball, especially against this pitcher. You're going to need that. So Rosario's kind of key if you're stacking up Rays. Not a high-end stack, not a top priority stack. On the low end of playability, honestly. Johnny DeLuca, 3,800, 2,900, has had a good 38 plate appearances so far. They're expecting him to hit. They're expecting him a little bit of right-handed pop from him. All over the place today. He's very cheap. 3.01 in the home run model. A little bit of upside there if you're going to this team. Richie Palacios, Jose Caballero, Ben Rortvedt at the bottom of the lineup. Palacios has been decent. 3 home runs, 6 stolen bases, a 127 WRC plus. Caballero's got 17 stolen bases. If he's down there, he makes for an interesting enough wraparound. More so on FanDuel where I can stick him at second base for 3,000. I don't love him at third base. Shortstop you're occupying with there's a lot of high-end shortstops. So not my preferred option there for 4,200. That's also a little bit high. You're just really getting some average and some stolen base upside. The 2 home runs are outliers. It's not a significant power bat. On the Red Sox side, going up against Taj Bradley, again, 6 innings were tremendous against the Yankees. Faced 24 Yankees, struck out 7, walked 2, 1 earned run, 4 hits. That was on the 10th. Last season, he had a 28% strikeout rate. But again, a 5.59 ERA, 3.83 xFIP is good. I mean, that's significantly better than that ERA, and it's not a bad mark. If you come in with that on an ERA, you're having a nice year. But walking 8.5% against a team that can definitely draw some walks. 1.39 whip. He was giving up a decent amount of hits. The CSW with this swinging strike rate isn't exactly in line. That's a low CSW with that swinging strike rate. And he gave up a lot of premium contact and a bunch of home runs. 5% home run rate over 104 and 2/3 innings, 21 starts. 46.4% hard hits, way over the number that we're looking for. Our target there is 40 plus. 91.2 miles an hour of exit velo. Our target there is typically 90 plus. High average launch angle, high barrel rate. In the in the lone start this year, Stuff Plus graded him out really, really well for the full arsenal, but he gave up all that premium contact that we're looking for. He just didn't manage to give up a home run. So some well-struck balls, some things in some Fenway Park action, some very good home run hitters in this Red Sox lineup, showing some of the power right there, showing some elevated power marks for Jarren Duran, Willie Abreu, Connor Wong. Even Garrett Cooper getting in on the action down there at 7.31. This Red Sox team's kind of interesting. I think you can take a shot at Taj Bradley. And at 10-3 on FanDuel, I really question that price, what kind of value you're getting there, what kind of ceiling you're really getting, or what kind of median you're getting there I do think there's ceiling for that money. If he's low owned on FanDuel, you can take some shots. But I have kind of mixed expectations. At $8,000 on DraftKings, I think that's all taken care of. It's perfectly fine. Mix them in, like I said at the top. If I'm going to Red Sox, I like the upside for some of these lefties. Rafi Devers at a 14.30 made him the home run pick of the day. That's the second highest rating overall behind Jordan Alvarez, who's at like 17 something in that matchup. I was going to make it Nolan Gorman, like I said, but then I saw the popularity that a couple places are projecting. Rafi Devers coming in a little bit less popular in what I think is an upside matchup, given all the premium contact, that he generates on his end. He's able to draw some walks against the pitcher who can give him out. He's just still way too cheap. $5,000 on DraftKings is too cheap. $3,400 on FanDuel is too cheap. Tyler O'Neill right behind him. $5,800 is correct on DraftKings. He also makes a tremendous amount of contact. $3,200 for Tyler O'Neill on FanDuel is too cheap. Tremendous upside for power. He's over the magic number for a home run as well. He's got 10 on the year at 308 ISO. 17.6% barrel rate against, don't look at necessarily that one, but against this kind of premium contact from a large enough sample last year. Definitely can take some shots. There are some strikeouts here for Taj Bradley, no doubt. 25.8 for this confirmed lineup. Some of that is 28% from David Hamilton in 50 plate appearances, 28% from Garrett Cooper over 71, 23.5% from Dom Smith, who last year in a larger sample was just at 15.5%. But there are definitely some back-end strikeouts here. O'Neill, as good as he's been, is at a 30.9%. He was at 25.2 last year, call it 27, 28 something. So even Devers 24, that's up 5 points. I do think there's strikeout upside. That's why I say there is a little bit of ceiling for Taj Bradley. But these two are tremendous. They have significant power upside. Then we get Connor Wong. Somebody asked yesterday why he's hitting third, and I went into it, but to do it again, 3,600, 2,700 across sites makes him a terrific catcher option. I think he's a very good catcher one-off option again. He'll be popular enough, but at that point, I think you're just getting significant upside, and you can book that cheap price at a key position on DraftKings. 6.86 in the home run model. He's got a 35.5% hard hit rate. That's normalizing back toward last year's number. Barrels are still a little bit down so far this year, 5.3% versus 9.1% last year, but he's already hit 5 home runs. He's got a 196 ISO, a 536 slug, 340, 375, 536. He's hitting for average. He's getting on base over 104 plate appearances. He's been really, really good. And he puts the ball in play. 21.2% strikeout rate is around average, but a low walk rate. So, that's not exactly the mix we're looking for low strikeout, low walk like a guy like Ahmed Rosario. But the low walk rate means that when he's not striking out, he's making contact and putting the ball in play. Willie Abreu's been good. 284, 373, 477, a 193 ISO, 3 homers, 5 steals. I made him the team home run pick. Get one for the team, get one for the overall. So Willie Abreu, the team home run pick, he checks in at 8.96. He's got a 9.2% barrel rate, 46.1% hard hits. It's right in line with what he did in a medium sample last year of 85 plate appearances. 2 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 135 WRC plus. He's been good over 200, basically 200 and change plate appearances now. Jarren Duran, 256, 325, 395 off the top. A lot of skill. Another left-handed hitter. Capable of hitting the ball hard. Capable of driving it. We're looking more for some on base, some speed, some correlated scoring out of him. Very good bolt-on option with these guys. He's lower priority, I think, than these 4 hitters. But he's very, very good. 4,600, 3,100 for the leadoff option in this lineup. That's kind of key. I definitely think he's your first man into a 5-man. You just straight line it like that. If you have no other options on DraftKings, or if you're building one lineup, I should say, on DraftKings. For 2,200, Dom Smith's playable. 2,300 on FanDuel. He's not an ideal option at first base. Last year he hit 12 home runs in 586, 254, 326, 366, but was 10% worse than average grading runs. It's just who he is. He is lower strikeout than he's been so far this year. He's also higher walk. Garrett Cooper, typically more of like a platoon option against left-handed pitching, but he's been getting some at-bats either way this year. Little bit of lurking power. He's got 1 home run on the season and 71 plate appearances. Not making tremendous contact so far this year. Last year it was better. Year before it was definitely better. there is a little bit of upside in Garrett Cooper. 17 home runs in 457 last year, 9 home runs in 469 the year before. For 29-25, I probably do prefer Garrett Cooper, even with the lefty-righty in the equation between the two. It's just you do get a discount on Dom Smith, even comparative to Cooper. David Hamilton, kind of meh at the bottom of the lineup. He does have 4 stolen bases, over 50 plate appearances. He's hit a home run, but he's dead at the Mendoza line. Ceddanne Rafaela hit his 4th home run yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. He's stolen 4 bases. Still 35% below average creating runs, but maybe some signs of life and a little bit of upside. He's an interesting enough wraparound play for 3,100, 2,800, especially the quad position eligibility that he continues to have on FanDuel. So, Tanner Houck's a yes. Even at the FanDuel price, there is quality start upside. DraftKings, I really like him at that price. 3rd-ranked pitcher on the board. At 8,000, Taj Bradley's definitely in play on DraftKings from the fair mid-range. 10-3 is very, very expensive on FanDuel. Should keep his popularity down. You can take a few shares, but it's not a high priority for me. Does have a decent ceiling, though, as far as strikeout upside goes. I like this Red Sox lineup, particularly the top 5. Definitely think they're stackable with the power that they're showing. Rafi Devers, the home run pick of the day, and still way too cheap. Rays, mix and match guys. And again, Tanner Houck, just too good at keeping the ball in the yard most nights. So not really a high priority stack. They'll be contrarian. They're cheap enough for their talent. John D and Randy Arozarena are both underpriced. Josh Lowe is probably underpriced. So is Isaac Paredes. So they're all cheap for their talent, honestly. Maybe a value stack, but low-end probability to really go off for what you would need to win a slate. Aaron Davis, yeah. Dom Smith is so cheap, but boomer bust. Don't think he's had more than 12 points this year. Yeah, definitely not a high-end player. Lone Wolf Seer, what's up, buddy? So the Cubs with Javier Assad on the mound, 7,700, 8,600. He's got a 20.5% strikeout rate, a 1.70 ERA, but you can see the truth in the 4.21 xFIP. That's who he really is. 1.06 whip is good, but he's walking a few too many at 8.2, so there's probably some luck involved there. Just a 6.5% swinging strike rate with a 25.5% CSW. Doesn't really keep the ball down, but has avoided home runs and has avoided premium contact in terms of hard hits and exit velo so far. Stuff Plus doesn't really like it. Seems like he's really been getting away with something. In his last start, 4 1/3, gave up 1 earned, 2 total runs on 4 hits, struck out just 4, walked 2, struck out 4, walked 3 against Milwaukee the start before that, but no earned runs, 4 hits. That's who he's kind of been. 1 strikeout, but only 1 earned run on 5 hits over 5 against the Mets. A 5 strikeout game. I read some of these at the beginning of the show, but only completed the 6th inning twice, but he's pitched into the 6th another 2 times, 5 2/3 in each of those. If he continues the trend for 77-86, you can roll the dice if you believe in the low ERA, if you believe that this is real, and you want to defy like this number and these numbers, and that number and that number. It's there, but he's going up against the Braves. It's just a why would you really want to situation. That said, over time, he has been good enough at limiting power and premium contact in medium sample and a small sample that it is giving a little bit of a haircut to the Braves' typically robust power numbers. There is a significant possibility that the model is kind of underrating the Braves' opportunity here against a low strikeout pitcher. I think the projections are more in line than the maybe there's a little bit more room for home run upside there. But Assad, again, has been good. 1.17% home run rate. That's 2 home runs that he gave up in his 2nd and 3rd start of the season. On the Braves side, Charlie Morton projects out pretty well for the money on DraftKings. Definitely a part of that fair mid-range. But there's some guys above him. He's a little bit more expensive. He's facing a decent Cubs team. At 10-7 on FanDuel, it's everything I said with a crushing weight of extra salary on top of it. There's a big talent tax there for Charlie Morton. That said, seven innings in his last start. Just 1 earned run on a solo home run. 3 hits. That was against the Mets. Struck out 7, walked 1. He had an 8 strikeout game against Miami earlier in the season on the 14th of April. Gave up 6 earned runs in that game, though. That was both his strikeout high and his earned runs high. The game before that against the Mets, he gave up 4 earned runs. In each of the starts around that, he's given up no more than 2 earned runs, with 2 appearances that were shutout performances over the innings that he pitched. 7 in a game, most notably against Cleveland. 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, 4 hitter, no earned runs over 7 innings. There's definitely upside for Charlie Morton. It's just you really need him to book that ceiling game for the 10-7 on FanDuel. All the way up there, it's a little bit harder to reach when you got Framber for 92, projecting for a median around there. So, difficult to see at the FanDuel price. I think he's playable, but we like this Cubs lineup for all their on-base skills, their run creation ability. They've got a little bit of power in there. Not necessarily advocating stacking the Cubs. Certainly not as much as I am stacking the Braves. I think they're playable against Charlie Morton. Charlie can get knocked around on a bad day, but he's been good enough that good enough reasons to avoid him anyway, at least in a small pool of lineups. If you're building out 150, you definitely want some Cubs. You certainly want some Braves. On the Cubs side, let's see if we got these lineups. Doesn't look like. Do you get the Twins? We'll grab that in a minute. Adley Rutschman hit a walk-off home run. Orioles win it 3-2. Second best record in the American League per Underdog's tweet. Good for them. They've had a hell of a time. Dom Smith got touted as the next big thing years ago by my friend. Yeah, he's a bust for sure. Yeah, he's one in a line of many guys who were supposed to be the next big thing for the New York Mets. But you know what happens. Poor Mets. Anyway, Cubbies lineup. If this is the version that we get, this is still projected lineup. But Mike Tauchman at the top at 391. Over 151 plate appearances, setting the table really effectively for this team, creating runs 35% better than average. He's got 3 homers. He's got 3 steals. That said, things are maybe starting to normalize for Tauchman. Never going to be a tremendous power bat, but he is low strikeout, high walk. Last year, 21.4% strikeouts with 14% walks. This year so far, 18.5% strikeouts and 16.6% walks. That's where a lot of that on-base skill comes from. But doesn't crush the ball. Is a left-handed bat, 4,000, 3,100. If you're building Cubs stacks, sure, you can include him at least in some. But he's not like a priority one-off option or anything. He's a correlated scoring play. Seiya Suzuki, there's a lot of hard hit balls there. 8.9% barrels, 55.4% hard hits over just 87 plate appearances this year. He's got 3 home runs, a 169 ISO. Was better for power last year, had a 10.5% barrel rate, 48% hard hits. I like the upside. Good enough at drawing walks, 10.1% walks last year, 8% this year. You can see double-digit walk rates for all 4 of those guys so far this year, with high enough to make these somewhat believable anyway, walk rates from last year. Little bit of strikeout around Chris Morel. Ian Haps are up a little bit. He's a little bit more like league average most of the time. But it's a very good group of hitters through there. Cody Bellinger's got 7 home runs over 129 plate appearances, a 228 ISO. Behind him, Chris Morel has 9 home runs, a 212 ISO, 109 WRC plus, 125 for Bellinger. Bellinger maintaining his improvements in strikeout rate that were so key for him last year, walking a little bit more so far this year. 9.6% barrels is up for him. He makes weird contact. He's never been tremendous for premium contact despite successful years. Morel's a monster power bat. Significant premium contact upside. 212 ISO this year. Last year he hit 26 home runs in 429 plate appearances, 260 ISO. I like him to improve on that this year. Hap hasn't been great, 219, but still getting on at a 333, just a 301 slug. So the power's been out a little bit for Ian Happ. Hasn't been stealing many bases, just a 91 WRC plus. But Happ is a good player. Last year, 21 home runs, 14 stolen bases, had a 360 on base, created runs 18% better than average. The year before that, similar 17 home runs, 9 steals, created runs 20% better than average, got on at a 342 clip. So he's just been scuffling a little bit, but a good switch hitter, 4,400, 2,800. The price is accounting for the struggles. Nico getting on base at a 361, just 5 stolen bases, but 119 WRC plus, been getting involved. Michael Busch, tons of power upside there, 14.1% barrels on this season. 7 home runs, a lot of them came early, but still maintaining a 222 ISO, 122 WRC plus, over 152 plate appearances. There's definitely upside there on a bad day for Charlie Morton. Miles Mastrobuoni, we'll see if he's in the lineup. John Gomes, minor option at catcher. He does have 2 home runs. He's only 2,900, 2,300. Not an ideal wraparound option, but maybe a guy that finishes if you decide to stack like, those guys and John Gomes or something like that. Maybe. On the Braves side, it's the obvious names. Ronald Acuna still projecting out great. 3,900, the price is down. We're officially below 4,000 for Ronald Acuna on FanDuel. What a day. Marcell Ozuna, 4,000. I don't know what more to say about Acuna. I've said it a bunch of times. It's the strikeouts right now. 11.4% strikeout rate last year, 24.9% this year. That's where a lot of the quality in the triple slash has gone. He's still getting on at a 354 clip. He's created runs 5% better than average. He's stolen 14 bases. He's been involved. Just hasn't been Ronald Acuna. Not barreling the ball as frequently. If you're striking out a lot more, it's difficult to keep up a 15.3% barrel rate. This is in batted ball events, but if you reduce the amount of batted ball events, you've got to obviously succeed. Ozzie Albies behind him, scuffling along for power, just with 4.7% barrel, 29% hard hits so far this year. The Braves have underperformed expectations so far. No bones about it. 3 homers, 2 steals for Albies. A 120 WRC plus. They're still scoring runs. They're still winning ball games. But the actual individual guy-by-guy quality has been a little bit more rough. Outside of Marcell Ozuna, he's now 5,300 on DraftKings, which still feels pretty cheap. If you're going to make Acuna 61, Albies also 53 and Matt Olson 52. I feel like Marcell Ozuna should probably be a little bit more expensive, given that he's got 12 home runs, a 301 ISO. He's created runs 89% better than average while slashing 329, 409, 629. And by the way, was doing that all of last year. The triple slash is up significantly in a small sample, but the power's been right there. Like, he was creating runs at a high clip. He should be more expensive. 4,000 on FanDuel is correct. Matt Olson hit his 5th home run last year. Travis d'Arnaud's got 5. Michael Harris and Orlando Arcia both have 4. Each of these guys is an interesting enough player to make as a cheap one-off from this game if you're looking to target Javier Assad, but you don't get to a full stack. Especially at shortstop, I think there's upside in Orlando Arcia. He hits the ball pretty hard. 17 home runs last year. He's come around a little bit with the bat. He's up to an 88 WRC plus, just 4 home runs, but definitely has more upside than this. And he's cheap. Kelnick hit 2 home runs now, 273, 319, 386. So the power's gone up a little. The quality's gone down over the triple slash a little. We'll see where it evens out. He's also very cheap left-handed bat against Assad. It's really all about these guys. And then these guys are your 2 bolt-ons. Kind of obvious with the Braves. So Morton's on the board, particularly on DraftKings at 84. He's fairly in the mix, but he's one of the I think, most expensive guy in that mid-range tier with the lowest projection. So if you just look and rank the DraftKings projections, it's pretty clear. At 10-7 on FanDuel, it's really tough for me. Again, needs to spike that ceiling game at that price against a bunch of guys who are projected for what his ceiling game is, I think. Assad is fairly priced for the matchup against the Braves. It's just he's low strikeout. He's been getting away with stuff. I don't believe. I think you fire away with Braves bats. Cubs bats a lot more tepid. A lot more of a reserved kind of a thing. They're priced, they're not cheap on FanDuel, at least at the top of the lineup. They're just kind of middle. On DraftKings, they're maybe a little bit affordable. Maybe there's more value there. Check out how they ranked out, I guess. Yanks and the Twins. Pablo Lopez, again, gone 6 in each of his last 2, 6 1/3 against Seattle in his most recent start. Struck out 10, gave up 1 earned run on 4 hits. Struck out 8 against Boston over 6 innings, gave up 1 on 5 hits. Couple of clunkers. Had a 5 earned run game against Detroit back on April 12th. Only lasted 4 innings. Struck out 7, but walked 3, gave up 5 earned on 6 hits. A 3 earned run game over just 4 innings against the White Sox. That was a bit of a meltdown considering the opponent. And then a 4 earned run game over 5 innings against the Angels. You could say similar things. 4 earned runs on 4 hits. Did strike out 8, so he made up for it a little bit, but gave up 2 home runs in that mix. Outside of those blips, he's been pretty solid. A strikeout low of just 2. That was against Cleveland back on April 4th, his second start of the season. Other than that one, his strikeout low is 6. That was the White Sox game. Every other game, 7+. Kind of rounding into form, too. 31.6% over the course of the season. 4.6% walks, a 3.89 ERA with just a 2.73 xFIP. Sub-1 whip, 14.2% swinging strikes, 29.9% CSW. All of that is just kind of in line with who he was last year. Stuff plus, let's call that league average. I'm sure that 1 or 2 of his pitches grade out a little bit above. So I think Lopez for 98, 10.5. Fewer questions about him at the FanDuel price. I do think there's a higher ceiling than Charlie Morton for 10.7, especially considering the $200 discount. And then on DraftKings at 98, I'm happy to go there, but he's the most expensive pitcher on the slate, and he's facing the Yankees. You do have a lot of other options that I also like. So easily in the mix on both sites for shares. It's just what do you think of him versus the competition in better matchups on the DraftKings slate. Stroman, 8,600, 7,900, 21.4% strikeouts, but the walks are way up this year at 11.8%. Not a stuff plus darling by any means, but a pitcher that effectively keeps the ball down over time, good at limiting premium contact over time. You can see that stretched out here. Last year, a 3-degree average launch, 5% barrels, 90.3 miles an hour of exit velo, and 41.1% hard hits that we don't really care about because everything's on such a low trajectory, 1.57% home runs. Year before that, it was up a little bit, 7-degree average launch, 6.6% barrels, 2.81% home runs, but was effective, 3.50 ERA, 3.49 xFIP, just 20.9% strikeouts that year, but a manageable walk rate, 20.7% last year, but the walk rate went up. And it's continued to climb this year. Strikeouts right about where they've been. So I think by and large he's pitching like Marcus Stroman this year. We're not far off in terms of the runs allowed or the swinging strikes or the CSW, anything like that. You can absolutely find a good Stroman strikeout game, 6 or 7, is within reach. It's just not his average start. Last time out was a little messy. He gave up 4 earned runs, but he struck out 5, 2 home runs allowed. That was against Houston. Somewhat forgivable. Just 3 strikeouts and 5 walks against Detroit. Only allowed 1 earned run on 3 hits over 5 1/3. Kind of a mixed result start. A bumpy stretch in the middle. 4 innings against Milwaukee. Gave up 4 earned. Struck out 4, walked 5. Had a 9 strikeout game against Oakland. That's your ceiling. 3 earned runs on 7 hits in that one, went 5 1/3. 5 1/3 against Toronto, just 2 strikeouts. Had a 7 strikeout game against Miami. So against the low-end teams, he's managed some high strikeout games. The Twins have been scoring a lot, but again, I do think 24.4% strikeout rate for this same lineup last year, 21.7% this year. I think they're hiding a few strikeouts in this lineup. If he's going to limit their power, that's one of the things that the Twins do pretty well. I could see a reasonable enough start for 8,600, 7,900 for Marcus Stroman. It's not a high priority play, but I think he's on the board. On FanDuel, it's probably a little bit more appealing. There's a reasonable enough chance at the quality start. He's only booked it twice this year. Those were in his first 2 starts. But he's pitched into the 6th inning in 4 of his last 5 starts. He just hasn't completed it. He tends to get into trouble that last time through the rotation, and then he gets yanked. So that's the key. I think if he's able to complete that 6th inning, you might have a decent start here. But he's at a lower end priority compared to a lot of other pitchers. Yankees lineup against him, definitely against Pablo, rather. Obvious home run upside from the usual suspects, Soto, Judge, Stanton. You're rarely going to get those guys significantly below the line for any kind of home run upside. You do get high average launch angles, but lowish barrel rates from Pablo. He's given up a little bit of hard hit this year so far, a little bit more exit velo. He's given up a few home runs. Last year, he wasn't ungettable for power. Same the year before. So there's always going to be some power upside if you can manage to connect. It's just he's so good for swinging strikes that these guys do have a significant chance. Not that guy. These guys in particular. I'll throw Volpe into that mix. And probably Glaber. Those guys do have significant chances, despite some power, of striking out a few times. Aaron Judge, spectacular at everything. As good as he is, he does strike out. Last year, 28.4%, but he had a 19.2% walk rate. 24.9% this year with a 16.6%. He's up to 236, 370, 490. He is surging over the last week or two. 193 plate appearances now, 255 ISO. Has created runs 46% better than average. The contact is normalizing very, very quickly back to where it's supposed to be. These guys are a spectacular tandem in this lineup. Soto's been tremendous all year. He's got 9 home runs, getting on base at a 413 clip, a 221 ISO, a 172 WRC+. If you're a regular and you watched this show a week or two ago, I was ranting and raving about some announcers saying, oh, yeah, well, if I'm the Yankees, I'm not paying Juan Soto to walk. Yesterday, Soto set the record for players' all-time walks, beating out Mickey Mantle before age 26. You are absolutely paying Juan Soto, in part, to walk. He gets on base at a ridiculous clip. That's part of why he is so good. It's part of why he's creating runs 72% better than average. Part of why he costs 6,400, 4,100. It is a huge part of his game. 14.8% walks, 12.8% strikeouts. He is phenomenal. Anthony Volpe walking at 10%, striking out at 22.6. Last year that was 27.8 and 8.7, so he's made some strides early this year. 269, 351, 419 triple slash. Creating runs 26% better than average. There's power, there's speed there. It's just probably a rough matchup for a young free swinger like Volpe. I don't love that spot today. Alex Verdugo, on the other hand, a lot of back control there. 10.4% strikeouts, 11.7% walks so far this year. 243, 331, 400. He's hit 5 home runs, showing a little bit of pop. Not a lot of premium contact, but the ability to hit some home runs, and definitely the ability to get involved as a cheap piece in between Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, all those guys. Stanton at 4,500, 3,200, just never stops smashing 9 home runs on the season, a 236 ISO. Fastest swing in baseball, 15.7% barrels, 52.8% hard hits, and underappreciated, at least by Yankees fans, 17% better than average for run creation so far this year. Keep it up, Mike. Anthony Rizzo, 4,400, 3,200, 7 home runs, 122 WRC+. Nothing not to like about the lefty. The price is great for his upside on any given slate. Definitely one of these hitters that could get Pablo for a home run. I like stacking Rizzo when we're going to the Yankees. He's always unpopular. He's one of the least popular guys in this stack, and he's very, very cheap for his talent. Makes a ton of sense to me. Glaber's underperformed his talent so far this year, but he is a talented guy. His price is way, way down at second base. No problems with sticking Glaber in there. Second base is by and large a weak position. Austin Wells, if he's the catcher today, 35-24. Playable enough. Love the low strikeout rate with the high walk rate that he's provided. Hasn't really hit this year. Hasn't really hit for power this year, but expected to. 9.8% barrels is good so far this year. 13.8%, 41.4% hard hits in a smallish sample last year. And then Ozzie Cabrera keeps on rolling, holding down that 9 spot. 262, 301, 397. Creator runs 1% better than average. 4 home runs. The king of all Mets bust just has to be Billy Beane, given the movie and everything. Yeah. That's a fair point. They have those scenes in there too, where he's striking out mostly for the Mets. Lastings Millage. There you go. If you've ever seen, I think I've had it on during shows before. I have a red Nationals t-shirt from back in the day, and it's actually a Lastings Millage t-shirt. I love it because he was never anybody for the Mets and then he was never anybody for the Nationals. But I was like, oh, I know that guy. I'll get his instead of one of the popular players and maybe he'll become something. And just didn't. We were at a Nationals game. I forget who they played. I don't think it was the Mets. It was just we were in D.C., so we went to a random Nationals game. But if you ever see it, that's the only National shirt I own. So know that it's a Lastings Millage shirt on the back. Yeah, when he asked Jonah Hill where he would have, Billy Bean asked him where he would have drafted him. That's a great movie. Edward Julian from the top of the lineup going up against Stroman. There is, the ability for Stroman to limit home runs is reflected in the home run model here. All these interesting power bats at the top of the lineup relegated to less than half of the magic number. But there is still the upside for power there. Any given slate, you can absolutely get dinged if you're Marcus Stroman. He's given up a 3.74. Like I said, he's had issues with that this year. 2 home runs in the last game against Houston, a home run against Milwaukee, 2 home runs to Oakland, 1 to Toronto, and 1 to Miami. So he's given up more power than usual this year. It's probably a blip just in the early sample, but it is, somewhat available. Julian and Trevor Larnach, a couple lefty bats off the top. Actually, wait, we have this lineup. Those two are correct. So a couple lefty bats off the top. Julian, 7 home runs already on the season, 5 stolen bases. A very good left-handed option going up against Stroman at second base. 4,400, 3,000, easy to get to at the top of the lineup. A 13% barrel rate this year, 13-1 last year, hard hit, 44 plus, right in line with what he was doing last year. Just a high strikeout guy, 33.6% this year, but draws walks, capable of getting on base at 342 on base this year. Nothing to dislike about Julian. Larnach has 3 home runs at 328, 371, 500 triple slash so far. 50% better than average creating runs from the left side of the plate. Definitely a playable option at 43-31. Ryan Jeffers, 4,800, 3,800 across sites. Hit his 10th home run last night, slashing 290, 368, 629, 339 ISO over 144 plate appearances. Jeffers is absolutely mashing this year. 179 WRC plus. He only costs 4,800. If you're looking for a catcher one-off, he continues to be a great one. No issues with it there. FanDuel's got the price right this year. 3,800. That's where he should be. This is cheap. 4,500 for Max Kepler. 3,300 on FanDuel. He's slashing 321, 376, 536, a 214 ISO. Very good left-handed power bat over time. Lowish strikeout rate for the power that he's able to generate. Capable of drawing a walk. Puts very good bat on ball. That's a fair price for Max Kepler. 4,500 on DraftKings, that's not bad. Carlos Correa at 4,100, also not bad at all. 2,900 on FanDuel. 2 home runs on the season, a 143 ISO, but creating runs 32% better than average, getting on at a 374 clip over 99 plate appearances. Drawing a bunch of walks, not striking out much, putting the ball in play with significant bat on ball skills. Never going to dislike Carlos Correa until he completely falls apart. Willie Castro, 4,200, 3,100. Having a good year. 3 home runs, 6 stolen bases, a 124 WRC+. plus. Carlos Santana, Alex Kirilloff, Jose Miranda. Interesting enough options at the bottom of the lineup. Santana's got 7 home runs now, a 191 ISO. Came to life over the last 2 weeks. Kirilloff for just 37.28 has 2 home runs, a 165 ISO, just an 82 WRC+, plus, just getting on at a 267 clip, and Santana's getting on at 287 with a 308 so far for Miranda. So you know what you're buying down at the bottom of the lineup, but these guys are all playable parts. I do think they can, Lone Wolf. It's not an ideal spot given what I'm concerned about mostly is the swinging strike rate. He's just so good at generating swinging strikes, and it's not like, Soto obviously isn't going to have a problem with that. I think a little gnat flew into my nose or something. Just tickling me. Soto obviously is not going to be an issue with strikeouts. When he does strike out, it's usually because the umpire made a mistake on a called strike. But Volpe, even Judge, Stanton, a little bit Rizzo, but not really, and then Glaber at the bottom of the lineup, that could be problematic. Especially, in some of the big situations, couple runners on, you get Stanton up at the plate, he's going to be swinging for the fences. So that swinging strike rate could be a little bit rough. Who gets pinch hit for first? Probably Larnach, or, if they bring in like a super high-end lefty it would be a high leverage situation probably if it's Julian. But maybe him. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me do it this way. I'll pull up the board real quick. Not that many games today, so we can... Where's lefties and the Twins? Yeah, Larnock's only made 4 plate appearances against lefties this year. Julian slashing, it's 22 plate appearances. Julian's at 250, 318, 450 with a 121 WRC plus and one of his homers against lefties this year. It's almost certainly Larnock. Kirilloff has made 8 plate appearances against lefties this year. Let's add to this sample. This year and last year. Kirilloff 130, 234, 241, though, when we add in last year. That's over 64 plate appearances. Larnock 160, 222, 280. Call it a tie. Depends on who's up. Could be any of the lefties. Except for Kepler. Kepler's the least likely out of those lefties to be pinch hit for. Not impossible, but least likely. Ferguson threw 21 pitches on Sunday. Are these guys lefty? Who's lefty here? I know Ferg is. Nope. I think he's the only lefty in the bullpen right now. Is Birdie lefty? Nope. Yeah, so you're really only worried about Caleb Ferguson as a lefty coming out of the pen. Like I said, he threw 21 pitches on Sunday. Doesn't make him unavailable today, but wouldn't be, it would probably just be a spot where it's high leverage, like get these two guys in a row. That would also probably make me more inclined to say it's one of those two guys because situationally, you'd like to think that the Yanks would be smart enough to say, all right, Jose Miranda's leading off an inning. Let's get the lefty in when these guys come up and then see if he can get through Jeffers or do it the other way around, start him against Miranda and just anticipating these guys. Then one of those guys probably gets pinch hit for. But it'll all be situational. No problem, Monty. Probably taking too long. Probably enough said about this game at this point. Pablo Lopez definitely on the board. 10-5 is high on FanDuel. It's 9,800. He's the most expensive pitcher on the DraftKings slate, but he projects out well with a ceiling. Just needs to get through a very tough Yankees lineup a few times, but there are certainly strikeouts available for him across some of the key hitters. That said, Juan Soto alone could damage him and ruin his DFS day. So there's always that. It's a challenging team. Yankees lineup can be stacked against him, particularly if you build a big position of Pablo Lopez. I do think it makes sense to grab some Yankees hedge stacks on the other side, but I think independent of any Lopez ownership, you can always roll the dice with the Yankees to answer that question. That Lone Wolf asked. You can see the obvious guys are showing some significant power upside still, and then some of the other guys are certainly in play for contact, not striking out, putting the ball in play, and then you get some cheapos at the bottom of the lineup. Twins bats against Stroman, definitely playable and cheap enough that they could be considered a good upper middle type value stack. They've been scoring a ton of runs. There is a little bit of power. Stroman not typically giving up a lot of power, but has given up some home runs, and he's playable enough against them for a fair enough price from the mid-range. Guardians, I think we're just targeting Carlos Carrasco here with some Rangers bats. Over the course of the season, 40 and a third. A 5.36 ERA with a 4.66 xFIP, a 9.7% swinging strike rate, just 17.4% strikeouts. Significant walk rate at 9.6%. That was not much better last year. Neither was the ERA, neither was the xFIP. Was throwing in a few more swinging strikes and a few more called strikes, but has been giving up some premium contact. That has continued this year. just not the pitcher that he once was, with a lot of good reason. Last time out, he did have an okay-ish start. He lasted 7 innings. That was against the White Sox. Struck out 5, but gave up 3 earned runs on 5 total runs on 6 hits. 2 home runs allowed. Start before that, just 1 earned run, 6 hits. Struck out just 3, walked 2. Struck out 3, walked 2, and gave up 8 earned runs in just 4 innings to Houston the start before that. I think that's our best comp. Against tough teams this year, he gave up 8 earned runs to Houston. He gave up 5 earned runs in the start before that to the Red Sox. Limited strikeout upside. His strikeout ceiling for the season is 6. That came in 3 innings against the Twins back on the 6th. That was a weird one. 6 strikeouts, 3 walks, just 1 earned run on 1 hit. Faced 13 hitters in 3 innings. I'm not sure what happened there. Back on April 6th. Other than that, a strikeout high of 5 with multiple 3s. 2 strikeout game. Pretty low end. The Rangers lineup is very, very good. A lot of good run creators. A couple of guys really underperforming. An underperforming star right there. A lot of upside in the Rangers lineup. See if we've got the confirmed version of the lineup. We do. Oops. So, usual suspects at the top: Semyon Seager, Nathaniel Lowe, Adolis Garcia. Easily playable as a straight line 4-man. Everybody's a little bit less expensive than they should be. $3,900 for Semyon on FanDuel at second base. $5,500 for him on DraftKings. Seager at $5,434 across sites. He's the one that's struggling the most. A 90 WRC plus, 5 home runs, no stolen bases. 177 plate appearances. He's slashing just 236, 316, 350. I absolutely buy into the upside that things are going to continue, or that not that this is going to continue, that he's going to get back to form and continue being a superstar caliber shortstop. Everything is directly in line with where it should be in terms of his strikeout rate, his walk rate. His premium contact's been off a little bit for sure. A little bit of bad luck, a little bit of lack of batted ball events, but I think we'll trend upward in the near future. Nathaniel Lowe, 4,300, 3,100. It's just, I'm going to continue harping on it. Way too cheap. Creating runs 53% better than average over 101 plate appearances now. 310, 426, 440. 2 home runs. 17 homers last year. Created runs 14% better than average. 27 home runs the year before. Hit 300, 358, 492. Created runs 43% better than average. What does a guy have to do to get his price up? I think it actually went down by $200 from yesterday. 3,100 on FanDuel. Easy play. Adolis Garcia, 5,600, 3,800, 9 home runs on the season, 4 stolen bases, a 114 WRC plus, 222 ISO, absolute masher against a pitcher that's going to give up this much general contact, this much premium contact, some home runs, doesn't have great stuff, doesn't have a tremendous swinging strike rate. Tons of opportunity for Adolis Garcia. 8.86 in the home run model. You get Seager at 10.16, 8.65 for Marcus Stroman. Nathaniel Lowe's respectable there. Jonah Heim at 5.74. Playable parts down through this lineup for sure. Jonah Heim is a high-end catcher bat. Decent enough premium contact marks. Doesn't strike out a ton. 19.5 this year, 19.2 last year. 4 home runs, 281, 322, 388. Good hitter as a catcher with some power upside. Hits from both sides of the plate. 4,500, totally playable. You can one-off Jonah Heim here. I don't mind that. I wish he was hitting higher in the lineup. If he was hitting like third, say Nathaniel Lowe was taking a seat today, hit Jonah Heim third, that would be really appealing at that price. From 6, he's perfectly playable. Definitely would want him in stacks. Definitely would consider him catcher one-off viable. Jankowski, some stolen base upside, ability to get on base, create some havoc on the base pass, maybe hit for power every now and again, but not a reliable power bat by any means. You can see 0 barrels each of the last 2 seasons, 2.3% barrels so far this year in 56 plate appearances. He hit a home run so far this year. He had 1 last year. He had none the year before. Limited plate appearances each of those seasons. Ezekiel Duran with quad position eligibility on FanDuel, 2 positions on DraftKings for a cheap price. He's slashing 299, 365, 325. Nothing wrong with that over 85 plate appearances. He was good last year. 14 homers, 8 steals, created run 7% better than average. Year before, 5 homers and 4 steals in 220. A playable part at a bunch of different positions for a cheap price. There's value in that alone. I skipped over Josh Smith. He's been decent, but everything's declining. He's still getting on base at a decent clip, creating runs at a 131, or has created runs 31% better than average. But you can see, not great contact, not a great overall hitter. Does play 3 positions for 2,800 in the middle of the lineup, though. At 4,000 on third base only, let me find $1,000 and pay for Rafi Devers one-off in that spot. Leody Taveras is playable from the bottom. 3 home runs, 4 steals, creating runs 4% better than average. Decent enough wraparound play. Little bit of power, decent amount of speed. Tends to go up and down, and we seem to be in the midst of an upswing or maybe approaching the top of an upswing. There's no real actual math behind that, but just seems like. He's playable. Top of the Guardians lineup, Tyler Freeman, Andres Jimenez, Jose Ramirez. Ramirez let us down last night. Otherwise, that Guardian stack really got there for us. I think it is a spot. It's not nearly as appealing as it was yesterday, but I think it is a spot that we can get to Guardians bats again. They're just good enough. But John Gray's been terrific this year. So it's kind of a both-sider. If nobody goes to that's one I would probably let be dictated by ownership, honestly. If the Guardians are really low owned and make for a contrarian enough stack, or even just kind of low owned, I do think they're a little bit more targetable. Gray's got just a 2.36 ERA with a 3.39 xFIP. He's got a 25.5% strikeout rate this year. He's given up a little bit of home run, a little bit of exit velo, 42% hard hits, a 7.6% barrel rate with a 16.1 degree average launch. Probably gotten a little bit lucky to limit home runs to just 1.04% so far over 45 and 2/3, 8 starts. Last year, that was 3.35, year before 3.26 on similar contact marks. So I expect the home runs will go up a little bit, which will normalize some of the results that we're seeing in John Gray's ERA so far this year. He is a good pitcher over time, though. Strikeouts are up a little bit this year from 21.6% last year. Swinging strikes are up from 12.2, which is already good, to 13.4, which is very good. CSW is up a commensurate amount. Year before was 25.7% strikeouts with an 11.6 and a 29.3. So we've improved the swinging strikes while normalizing the strikeout in the CSW back to the 2022 level. Could be actually a little bit more upside on the right day for strikeouts for John Gray. But this isn't necessarily the right team to do that against. So with their ability to put the ball in play, limit strikeout upside, it limits his appeal at 97. He's a playable piece, but he's here. That's on FanDuel. At 75 on DraftKings, I absolutely love the idea of pairing him with any of these guys. It's just a very different kind of a play. He only needs to give me 5 on DraftKings. If he can manage to limit power, limit hits, I care a little bit less about the strikeouts. I think we can get through enough strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, 5 innings, a win bonus, limit hits, and anything from there is gravy. For that price on DraftKings, that is totally, totally playable. I would definitely hedge if I took a big position on John Gray, and I expect he's going to be popular, so all the more reason to hedge on the other side with Guardians bats, all the more reason to expect that maybe the Guardians will be a little bit too low owned here. But Gray, again, is good and has been good. 7 strikeouts in each of his last 2 games. He's been pitching very deep over his last 3. 3 starts back, he went 8 innings against Washington. Struck out just 3, but only 1 earned run allowed on 3 hits. If he does that kind of a game today for 7,500, forget it. You're going to need him. 7 innings against the Royals and 6 innings against the Rockies at Colorado in his last 2. Struck out 7 in each of them. Walked just 1 over his last 3 starts. He's given up just 4 earned runs over the last 3 starts combined. 1 earned at Coors in the last start. 8 hits in that one. 7 hits against the Royals at Kansas City. Gave up 2 earned in that one, but has been really, really good. Strikeout high for the season is 9. That came in a 5-inning game against Oakland. Has not given up more than 2 earned runs, and that was only once. That was in that Kansas City game 2 starts back, other than his first start of the year, which was a mess against the Cubs. 3 2/3, gave up 5 earned. Give up a homer, 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. He's given up 2 homers all year. Like I said, I do think that's a little bit of luck. For 3,400, 3,000, Tyler Freeman still below the Mendoza line. Had a productive day yesterday, but if you looked at the line, it was actually partially based on 2 hit by pitches. So he got a little bit of luck on his side there to produce that game. 193, 307, 345, just a 93 WRC plus. Does have 4 homers, 5 steals. Does have the ability to hit the ball hard. A highly respected hit tool coming up through the minors. A low strikeout rate. So if we're looking low strikeout rate, put the ball in play, right on theme with the Guardians. He's definitely in play for 34, 3,000, especially leading off in this lineup ahead of Andres Jimenez, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor. Naylor's been tremendous. Been one of the best players in baseball, one of the top first basemen in baseball this year. 268, 358, 564. He's created runs 56% better than average. He's one of the league leaders with 12 home runs and 11.7% barrel rate. Just big steps forward each of the last 2 years for Josh Naylor. I totally buy in that this is real. I'm not really skeptical about it. And 13.3% strikeouts. That's similar to last year at 13.7. He's pushed walks up to 11% so far this year, over 6.7 last year. He's been tremendous. Jose Ramirez, 6,000, 4,000, was kind of left out of the equation yesterday. I think he came away with just a 3 on FanDuel. 9 home runs, 7 stolen bases on the season, 206 ISO, 108 WRC plus. Still scuffling in the average and the on-base percentage. Those will climb. He is still Jose Ramirez. Everything else is normal. The walks are down a little bit, 4 points over year, but the strikeout rate's right where it's supposed to be. Hard hits are down a little bit, but the barrels are where they've been. With all the contact that he makes, Jose Ramirez is going to be fine. Will Brennan, 3,600, 2,600, was interesting yesterday. 129 plate appearances, got 4 home runs, 2 steals, a 160 ISO. Just a 92 WRC plus, but another guy just putting the ball in play all the time. 14.7% strikeouts, just a 5.4% walk rate. Last year it was 12.5 and 3.5. Solid left-handed bat to throw at John Gray here. They got a bunch of lefties down the bottom of the lineup too. It's going to be a lineup that's with all these lefty bats potentially. Still projected. Potentially a rough lineup to get through a bunch of times for a mid-level righty. John Gray's no ace. You can see stuff plus. That's a good metric to go by if you're trying to tie break John Gray. Kyle Manzardo for just 2,200, 2,300 at first base. Just 25 plate appearances in the show. Hasn't done anything good yet, but was tremendous in AAA this year. Their top prospect overall. Give him the call up, and he's very, very cheap for the upside. 5.61 in the home run model makes him among the top home run potential hitters here. Esteban Florial making tremendous contact so far this year. It's only 96 plate appearances. He's got 3 home runs. He's got a 218 ISO. Just slashing 195, 263, 414. The results suck, but the contact and the power mark is there. 36.5% strikeouts, part of the problem. Last year that was 28.2 into the 9.9% walk rate in a small sample of 71 plate appearances. Didn't hit any home runs, had a .082 ISO. Year before, no home runs in 35 plate appearances, but has always just been positionally blocked in the Yankees organization. Getting a little bit more of a shot here. Be nice to see him on an everyday basis, see what he could do. Bo Naylor at 32-24 has 3 home runs, but he's also sub Mendoza. 35.3% strikeout rate. These guys ruin the good time for the strikeout rate. That's why it jumps to 21.3%. Everybody else is in the teens or better. So it's not like we consider this real. Brian Rocchio, 17.9%. Mostly here for defense. Does have 7 steals. Capable enough of getting involved, but I don't love taking shortstop up with Brian Rocchio. So Gray on DraftKings, probably the top value pitcher of the day. On FanDuel, totally different story. He's moderately playable for 97. But healthy respect for the Guardians. Would definitely hedge with Guardians bats. They're interesting enough on their own, even without a great position. I do think you can go to some Guardians here. They're going to continue to be interesting throughout most of the season. I definitely want to fire away with Texas bats, one of the highest run totals on the board. 4.13. Second only to Houston and Atlanta. Significant opportunity for upside from Texas here. Would not play Carlos Carrasco, even for the discount. You just don't have enough upside for strikeouts. It's too problematic. This game we've got both lineups in. Coming up on 4:30, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Check out the show description for some updated notes. After people have asked, I threw in as I mentioned at the top, and this will be the only time I try and harp on it. I did drop in some PayPal, Venmo, CashApp. If you want to throw anything in, go for it. If not, no worries whatsoever. Right now, the idea is keep things free on the site, but if we end up going to a subscription model at some point, anything you kick in now will definitely be applied going forward to whatever that subscription looks like. If that ever happens, goal is always going to be to keep it under $1 a day, because I think that's where subscriptions in this industry should be. If you're paying for $1 to $5, which is what the average player plays on any given slate, you probably don't need to be paying several $100s a month for your DFS subscriptions. So hopefully we never have to get there. Hopefully something kicks in and we find ways to monetize other ways with sponsors and whatnot. But when you get a chance, if you want to, the info's down there in the description. Not going to put links up on the show or any of that shit. You guys can find it on your own. Larry C., I remember wondering what the fuck was going on. They played Baby Shark Song with Power or something, his nickname, but the place went nuts. I don't know who you're talking about. Noah Cunha, Harris leading off. Interesting. That's worthy of a quick rewind. Michael Harris, Ozzy Albies, Marcelo Zuna, Matt Olson, Travis d'Arnaud, Adam Duvall, Orlando Arcia, Jared Kelnick, and Zach Short. That is a depleted Braves lineup. We're going to swing back to that real quick. That's that game. It makes Michael Harris more interesting. It probably reduces the overall quality of the Braves lineup, though. I mean, probably is a ridiculous thing to say when we're taking Ronald Acuna out of the lineup. It most definitely reduces the quality of an already diminished Braves lineup. For one, they've been largely underperforming this year on an individual basis. For another, they were already without Austin Riley, who's injured. Now we're dealing with Noah Cunha. You still do have deadly, deadly hitters. Michael Harris is very, very good. Capable of replicating Ronald Acuna's performance on any given day. Not over the course of time, but any given day, capable of that kind of upside. Albies is the top second baseman in baseball, in my opinion. Ozuna has been tremendous. Matt Olson is the top power hitting first baseman in baseball, in my opinion. So that top end is still very good. Travis d'Arnaud still has terrific power. Adam Duvall in the lineup in the 6th spot does have right-handed power upside, but typically we get Adam Duvall in a lot of platoon situations. He's more high-end in my estimation than like Garrett Cooper among those power-hitting right-handers who we typically want to get against a lefty. If you have to go again in a righty-righty, I think Adam Duvall against Javier Assad has some upside. Zach Short at the bottom of the lineup is just a total afterthought. Kelnick, Arcia. Arcia is the more playable of those two. Kelnick, scuffling. Yeah, it's a weak Braves lineup. It probably gives a little bit more believability to Javier Assad's ability to get through this lineup clean. Like I said, you're really just looking for him to go out and pitch 6 clean innings, book the win, book the quality start. Still don't love it at 86 on FanDuel, but it might make him a little bit more playable as a value option at 77 on DraftKings. That is a weak version of the Braves lineup. Let me know what other rewinds we want as this comes in. Terry doing a Stephen A. hot take. Noah Cunha is a hit to the Braves lineup. Yeah, really out on a limb there. Shaky call. These touts and their weird opinions. Yanks lineup came out. Volpe, Soto, Judge, Verdugo, Stanton, Rizzo, Torres, Jose Trevino, not Austin Wells. Otherwise, it's the exact same. Ozzy Cabrera rounding things out. Twins lineup was already confirmed. That one was confirmed. These two are in. The Rays lineup is Yandy Diaz, Josh Lowe, Randy Rosarena, Jonathan Aranda, Isaac Paredes, Richie Palacios, Jose Caballero, Ben Rortvedt, and Jose Siri. So a couple of changes for the Rays there, but similar take. Tanner Houck, very good at keeping the ball in the yard. Even if they get him, it's probably for around what their total looks like, four runs and change. The days where they hang 10 runs on Tanner Houck are probably few and far between. I know that worked out for the Rockies yesterday, though. Somebody mentioned that in chat. Spoke the Rockies rally into existence. All right, 3 games to go. A's going up against Fromber. It's really tough. Even as a contrarian option for a cheap team. I just love what Fromber does on the mound. It's not a pitcher I ever really try to target for DFS. Every now and then he gets blown up. but it's pretty rare. It happened 2 starts ago. That was against Seattle. Gave up 5 earned on 9 hits, gave up 2 home runs, which is completely bizarre for him. 3 strikeouts, 1 walk in that game. Most recent start was much more Fromber-like. He struck out 4, walked 2, gave up 2 earned runs on 6 hits, went 7 innings. That was against Detroit. Booked the win, booked the quality start, off and running for a nice score. 5 innings at Coors Field. He struck out 6, gave up 2 earned runs, 5 hits, 7 2/3 against Toronto in the start before that one. That was back on April 2nd before the injury. 5 strikeouts, 6 hits, over 7 2/3 shutout innings. Fromber's got complete game shutout upside on any given slate against this team. The strikeouts come and go with Fromber. 18.9% this year, but a 10.8% swinging, solid CSW, 28.2. Last year, the swinging was better. The overall strikeout rate was 24.8. Year before, 23.5 over complete samples. 31 starts last year, 31 starts the year before. What we always love about Fromber, 2 years ago in 2022, a negative 3.6 degree average launch. I believe that was like -5, -6 the year before in 2021. Gave up just a 1.33% home run on 5.8% barrels. Last year, that went up a little bit. 4.2 degree average launch, 2.35% home runs on 7.9% barrels. A few more home runs allowed last year. This year so far, in just 5 starts, 29 2/3, a 3.4% barrel, -1.2. We're getting back down in the average launch being significantly low. 92.7 miles an hour and 48.3% hard hits. Again, we care about that a little bit less in terms of home run upside that it allows when the ball's just going to be drilled into the ground. A lot of worm burners. But that is where some of the base hits come against Fromber. Higher end upside on FanDuel probably. Significant ability to book the quality start, book the win here. He's just very cheap too. For the talent, for the projection on both sites, easily the top of the board, the most enthusiastic play. He's dark green on his own across the board. Conditional formatting, my formatting, however you want to look at it. I don't think it's a spot to stack Oakland. It'll be wildly contrarian. They're all very cheap. You do have 4 guys with multi-position eligibility on FanDuel, 3 guys with multi-position eligibility on the DraftKings slate. You can see Fromber cutting significantly into the home run upside. Even Brent Rooker just 5.19. He's got 10 homers on the year at 325 ISO. He's swinging and missing less in the zone. He's a more interesting hitter this year. But that said, still a 30.8% strikeout rate. Very gettable for a pitcher like Fromber. Abraham Toro, 3,700, 2,800 with triple position eligibility on FanDuel. 4 homers, 2 steals, 135 WRC plus, an effective triple slash. JD Davis for 35-25. Always has power upside against the lefty. It's just this is not really the correct lefty to exploit that power upside on most slates. That said, for the cheap pricing, third base, first base on both sites, if I'm building stacks of A's, JD Davis is probably in them, and he might be under-owned by comparison. Like, I think a lot of people stretch for Shea Langoliers instead. I think a lot of people go to Tyler Geloff. Both of those guys are definitely not incorrect plays if you're going to the A's. It's just I think that would render JD Davis a little bit under-owned for where he should be. Geloff for 46-28 back in the lineup. He's got 3 homers, 4 steals, 69 WRC plus, but he is their best overall player, probably. Shea Langoliers has 9 home runs. He contributed a little bit yesterday, but typically we're just looking for the home run upside. A 17% barrel rate, 9 homers, 287 ISO. But again, bad matchup for power, bad matchup for home run upside especially. Tyler Nevin, Max Schumann, Brett Harris, Esteury Ruiz at the bottom of the lineup. Ruiz just never able to get in the game for whatever reason with this team. 59 plate appearances, 2 homers, 4 steals. Capable enough contributor, 204 ISO so far. Pretty good contact, but just relegated to the bench and the bottom of the lineup by this team. Bunch of assholes. Max Schumann, Brett Harris, playable parts given the multi-position eligibility for Schumann. You can move them around the board. If you're building a ton of A stacks to be just wildly contrarian, those guys are in the mix. Otherwise, they're not really key parts. Now the Astros against Aaron Brooks. Like I said at the top of the show, Aaron Brooks, not a new name. He's in his mid-30s. He debuted for Kansas City back in 2014 with 2 2/3 innings in the show. That was at age 24. He pitched for Kansas City and another organization, I forget who, in 2015, 55 1/3 innings. Then pitched in AAA in 2016, 2017, and 2018 at ages 26, 27, and 28, never finding his footing in the show until he arrived in Oakland in 2018. Pitched 2 2/3 there, then I guess was traded. I forget where in 2019. It just says 2 teams. 110 total innings in 2019. His biggest major league sample by far. Biggest major league sample by far there. Made 18 starts, worked in 29 games overall, had a 5.65 ERA with a 5.35 xFIP and a 6.71 K per 9, which does not work out to a good strikeout rate. Went to the KBO for 2 years, 2020, 2021. Was in the KBO back when we were playing. He was on Kia. 151 and a third, 23 starts. He had a 2.50 ERA with a 2.90 xFIP, a 7.73 strikeout rate, or K per 9 rather. He was an effective enough KBO pitcher that year. We definitely used him a little bit. The American dudes, when they go over there, do land as somewhat effective pitchers. We saw the same thing with like Eric Fede and guys like that. So not totally shocking there. In 78 innings in 2021 and 13 starts in the KBO for the same team, 3.35 ERA, 3.08 xFIP, and a lower K per 9 at 6.35. Came back, worked in AAA last year in 2022 for the Cardinals. He made 13 starts in AAA, 69 and 2/3 innings, working as a 32-year-old, facing 22-year-olds. 5.56 ERA with a 4.37 xFIP, a 6.98 K per 9, through 9 1/3 irrelevant innings in the show last year. In 2022. Last year was in the San Diego system. 63 and 2/3, all in AAA as a 33-year-old. 4.95 ERA, 5.33 xFIP, 7.21% K per 9, or 7.21 K per 9. I should have just put damn percentages on here. Did not make it into the show for San Diego last year, and then so far this year has been pitching in AAA for Oakland. 43 and a third over 8 starts. He's got a 4.57 ERA with a 4.71 xFIP and a 6.65 K per 9 with a 2.08 walk per 9. This is not a good pitcher. That was all just to summarize that this is not a good pitcher, particularly not when he's facing the Houston Astros. You can see I had to normalize his home run marks a little bit. I just used the career numbers, and you can see the Astros are monumental. The reason for that is typically it looks at just the last 3 years, so it was only a sample of 9.1 innings in which he had given up actually. I don't have it. He'd given up a 2.89 home run per 9 in that 9.1 innings. I forget what the total actually was. So I just gave him back his career numbers, and with the career number, the Astros were higher than this, and with the career numbers in the show for Aaron Brooks, this is where they landed. So I had to normalize it a little bit. They still look like the best option overall for power. Jainer Diaz. I forgot. I think I made Jainer Diaz the overall home run pick of the day. Whoever it is up on the website, that's the home run pick of the day. I'll check just so I can tell you guys. But I think Jainer Diaz is super interesting given that he rates out along with his teammates. No, I did make it Rafi Devers. Coward. I guess I chickened out at the last moment. I really like Jainer Diaz with an 11.03 against this pitcher in the home run model. He's probably going to be an afterthought for most people that are stacking up Houston, especially on FanDuel. He's going to just go by the wayside for 2,700. He's slashing 270, 302, 388. He's down to a 97 WRC plus, down to a 118 ISO. He's got 3 home runs, though. Makes tremendous contact at the plate. Low strikeout rate, low walk rate, tons of balls in play. Going to be supporting all these guys who hit ahead of him and do the exact same thing in terms of low strikeouts, low walk rates. Any one of these guys might clear the bases, of course, ahead of him. But I like him with some power upside there. I think he's sneaky on the FanDuel slate. He'll be more popular where you have to play catchers, but he's a capable enough one-off option on DraftKings. He's definitely a part of stacks on DraftKings. Jeremy Pena for 44.33. It's been really good. 329, 372, 453. Creating runs 40% better than average. He's got 4 homers, 6 stolen bases. Low strikeout, low walks, a lot of balls in play. Alex Bregman is on a roll. We're up to 4 home runs. He's rescuing himself. 89 WRC plus. Still has some room to go. 225, 293, 358. A lot of room for improvement there too. But showing some power, showing some life in his bat. Had the double dong the other night. Hit another one last night. Like him for upside today. 9.46 in the home run model. Not far below the magic number that all 3 of those guys are above. Altuve, Tucker, Alvarez, kind of no-brainers against this pitcher. You're going to throw a 34-year-old career minor leaguer against the 3 of the very best hitters in baseball? Sign me up. Absolutely interested. Jordan Alvarez is way too cheap for this matchup. Altuve is too cheap for this matchup at 57.37. They're going to be popular. There's no avoiding it. They're going to be upper 20s into the 30s, probably kind of popular. But if you stack them up with, it's more about, as I've always said, it's more about the under-owned combination rather than like you can't use three very popular players. You can absolutely stack all three of those guys in a lineup and still have an unduplicated, leveraged lineup with just another team in there. There's a lot of spots in your average lineup. Joey Loperfido at the bottom of the lineup. Mauricio Dubon, Trey Cabbage. Loperfido is very interesting for 26, 23. Over 30 plate appearances. He's slashing 321, 367, 357. He's yet to homer, but does have a lot of power. Yet to barrel a ball, but does have a lot of power. Strikes out at a 33.3% clip so far. That probably won't change, but he's a very high-end prospect for this team. Dubon, quad position eligibility for 24. I don't want to skip Altuve that many times, but in the lineups where I skip Jeremy Pena, you can stick him at shortstop maybe. He's just another outfielder. He's definitely not a high-end third base option. He is a second base option for the 2,400 also, but again, you don't really want to skip a cheap Altuve for him. But a playable part from the bottom of the lineup if you're building from down there. Cabbage hasn't done anything this year in 56 plate appearances last year. He had a homer, stole a base, but kind of low-end mix and match part at best. But all these guys are in play to help turn the lineup over. They're capable of creating runs against a minor league pitcher. So definitely can go there. Brooks not really on the board at 6,500, 5,800. I see basically no path to success. I'd be shocked if he even reaches these median projections, to be honest. Framber Valdez is a gigantic yes from the top of the board. Nothing not to like when he's this cheap comparative to the other pitchers, other than he'll be popular. Astros are a big yes. A's, even as a hedge, even as a cheap, under-owned contrarian angle, not great against this pitcher. Could get to him, but unlikely to. Bregman too cheap on FanDuel, as Michael Knack says. Yes, sir. Lone Wolf, you're a prince. I appreciate it, pal. Again, not necessary, but if you feel compelled, there's the info that you've been begging me for all this time. Twist my arm, I'll let you pay me. But yes, content, the goal again continues to be free up on the site at rotoscouts.com, and hopefully will continue to. The Cards, Lance Lynn on the hill, Griff Canning on the mound for the Angels. Canning, 16.4% strikeouts this year, gives up a ton of premium contact, a lot of power, a lot of home runs. Stuff Plus doesn't like the arsenal this year. Strikeouts are very down this year, a 5.75 ERA with a 5.12 xFIP. Swinging strikes are rough. Last year it was 12.8% swinging with a 25.9% strikeout rate. This year just 9.9 with a 16.4. That's a monumental drop. Last game, 3 strikeouts, walked 2, gave up no earned runs on 3 hits over 5 2/3 against Kansas City. We loaded up on Kansas City in that one, and we were disappointed. But that's been the outlier this season. Every other start, he's given up at least 2 earned runs. High point of 6, 7 total runs, 9 hits. That was over 4 innings against the Red Sox. That was also his high. I mentioned this at the top. That was also his high point for strikeouts. He had 6 strikeouts in that game. 5 strikeouts in another game. That was the most recent one against Cleveland. Give up a homer, 2 earned runs on 4 hits. He was okay in that game. But I don't think we're necessarily looking for Griff Canning shares, even against a gettable St. Louis team. Do we have this lineup? This is a key lineup. I hope we get it. Doesn't look like. So depending what St. Louis does with where these guys are in the lineup, there's a lot of interesting lefties. And again, Griff Canning does give up premium contact to lefties. And then you've got, at least historically, some really good righties in this lineup. Or 2 anyway. Arenado hit his 3rd home run 2 nights ago. Goldschmidt's stuck at 3. 266, 324, 380 for Arenado with a 104 WRC plus, 69 WRC plus with a 205, 287, 282. Not much power, not much run creation coming from those guys. They really need to pick it up. The guys that are going to be very popular are those lefties. Matt Carpenter, Lars Nootbaar, and especially Nolan Gorman. You can see the marks in the home run model. 11.46 for Gorman. Nootbaar at 8.43. That's a fairly high mark for him. 7.02 for Carpenter. Brendan Donovan at 4.79, another left-handed bat in there. It'll be interesting to see how they stack the lineup up. If it's anything like this, I do like Carpenter, Gorman, Nootbaar for sure. And then Goldie and Arenado around those guys are good filler. Ivan Herrera is a playable catcher for 3,300, 2,600. He's got a decent WRC plus at 109. He's hit 3 home runs, 94 plate appearances. He's been putting good bat on ball. Regarded for defense and is a high-end prospect, but more as like a very good catcher. Was once upon a time going to be the heir apparent, as I've said before, to the Molinas, or to Yadi Molina specifically, and took a backseat to Contreras. But now that Contreras is out of the lineup, he's getting basically everyday shots, and he's productive enough. At 3,300, you can probably get away with a one-off of him if you want to, but more playable, I think, in stacks and mostly on DraftKings. Going to be skipped more often than not on FanDuel at just 2,600. So if you're looking for a contrarian piece, like on a popular team, just like with the Astros with Jainer Diaz, Ivan Herrera is also going to be less popular than a lot of his teammates for a very cheap price on the FanDuel slate. In a good spot, in most likely a pretty good spot in the lineup with, not the same power upside necessarily as the lefties, but given his ability to put bat on ball against a gas can of a pitcher, there's definitely upside there. So just making a swap like that. All right, in this lineup, I'm not putting Goldie in. Give me a popular Nootbaar, Arenado, Gorman, and give me the catcher for 26 instead of paying 28 for Goldie in that one. You still get a premium mid-lineup stack with a lot of power, and you're differentiating here, so maybe they're playable with the Astros now. If you happen to put them together with the Astros and you went with both catchers, that would be wildly contrarian with a good amount of upside. So there's always ways to build, even with the popular lineups, that are not going to make for super popular lineup combinations. And you can still get to premium pitching with those teams. There's really not much justification in Canning and what he's done this season to consider him as much of an option. I do think for 55, you can consider him in the bargain bin as like a dart throw. Remember, at the beginning, if you were here, I did change him from a red to an orange. I do think since he's so cheap at a hitter price on DraftKings, maybe you can get there. The upside on FanDuel, even at 65, is probably a little bit shaky. He's only completed 6 innings once. Did book the quality start, but not the win. That was in that Cleveland start 2 starts ago. He went 5 2/3 in the last one. And was okay, but the strikeout upside is low. I just think he gets eclipsed, even for the money, by most of the other options on the FanDuel slate. Lance Lynn at 82.71. That FanDuel price isn't completely uninteresting against a really bad Angels lineup. The question with Lynn is going to be depth, which is weird because Lynn used to be a bulldog for depth. But now in his last, he's failed to even come out for the 6th inning in each of his last 4 starts. 4 2/3 in the most recent one, 4 earned runs, 5 runs total on 5 hits. Struck out 5, walked 2, but just 4 2/3. 5 innings in the start before that. That was against the Brewers. 5 innings against the White Sox in the start before that. Same 4 earned runs, 5 runs total. That one on 4 hits. Struck out just 4, walked 3. 5 inning start against the Mets was pretty effective for limiting runs. Just 1 earned run allowed on a solo homer, but only struck out 3, walked 3. 7 strikeouts over 5 against the Diamondbacks, 3 earned runs. So the quality has been kind of mixed. The depth is not overly reliable. He's very cheap on FanDuel. I think this is just pricing in the lack of significant upside for the quality start. We're also not at a great stuff plus mark. 17-ish points below average. 3.79 ERA, though, a 4.35 xFIP, a capable enough 21.3% strikeout rate to believe that he can find some additional strikeouts against this lineup. 10.1% walks is high. Last year, that was 8.3. The year before, that was 3.7 with a 24.2. Last year, he had a 23.6 strikeout rate. So there's, if he's not completely shot, there's reason to believe that this could go up a little bit, 2-3 points. This could climb by a point or so. And again, it is a very weak lineup on the other side. So for 71, even with the question mark about the quality start, the times that he does get there at that price, you're probably dealing with a nice day for the price. So I think reasonable enough value option on FanDuel. 82 on DraftKings. He's in the mix. He's one of the yellow guys. I think he's just as playable as a Taj Bradley. A Logan Webb against the Dodgers is probably more appealing, honestly. John Gray against the Guardians is better at 75. Charlie Morton against the Cubs, though, is a good comp for 84. Right in that mix. Angels bats, not overly appealing. Nolan Schanuel, a lot of bat control, a lot of batted ball skills, but only resulting in a 237, 311, 328 so far. .092 ISO with 3 home runs, of a 15% worse than average for run creation. I believe there's maybe hit tool-oriented upside there. You do see a little bit of power in the home run model for the Angels. Schanuel checking in at the mark of the beast, 6.66. By the way, watched a cool movie last night on Shudder. If you haven't seen Late Night with the Devil, if you're into horror, like elevated horror, good stuff. It's like a throwback found footage, supposedly was a television show, late night talk show kind of format, competitor for Johnny Carson kind of a setup. So a lot of it looks, and they did a really good job with the production design and everything. And it's like the 70s talk show on what happened on a given Halloween night. It's really good. Mickey Moniak for 31.23 comes in at a 7.77. So if you believe in the whole numerology play, you got a 6.66 and a 7.77 right there. That's got to be pretty good. 3,100, 2,300 for Moniak. Did have that hot stretch at the beginning of last year, but has not really done all that much since. Over 98 plate appearances this year. He's not really putting bat on ball all that effectively. 183, 224, 280, 2 home runs, a stolen base, a 42 WRC+. We still don't have this lineup. Taylor Ward, 4,900, 3,100, fairly priced. Their best player. Best shot at a home run at 7.9, or excuse me, second best shot, 7.90. At 7 on the year, 179 ISO. Willie Calhoun, 286, 311, 500. He's got a home run. He's put bat on ball effectively with a 42.1% hard hit rate, yet to barrel a ball in the small sample. A little bit of left-handed ability there. Fair price. If you're going to this team and he's hitting cleanup, you should definitely prioritize him, but not a priority on any kind of grand scale across the full slate. Logan O'Hoppe does have a lot of upside as a power hitting catcher. Just a 134 ISO so far, 3 home runs, good triple slash, 48.5% hard hits, a 7.2% barrel with upside for more based on what he did last year. 8.70 is the leader for this team in the home run model, but still below the magic number. 4,200, 2,500. There are other one-offs that we've already talked about that I like better at catcher on the DraftKings slate. Nico Goodrum, not really a key part, even at 2,200, 22,000. If you wanted to stick him at second base for the dead men because you're building a bunch of Angel stacks, so be it. At third base at 20 for 22 on DraftKings, that's really weak. Joe Adell's been tremendous, 3,700, 3,000. Should be hitting up here somewhere probably. 7 home runs, 7 steals, 257 ISO, 125 WRC+. One of the good stories has Kansas City fans talking about potentially trying to trade for Joe Adell as a cheap, controllable piece. Not sure if that'll happen, but it was interesting to see that pop up. Zach Neto, Luis Guillorme at the bottom of the lineup. Not really all that interesting. Neto does have 3 homers, 6 steals, but an 88 WRC+. Was mostly ineffective last year, and Guillorme is here for defense. Last game, Dodgers-Giants, 5 o'clock, which is good because I do have to get out of here, get my bag packed, and catch a train. As mentioned, we're traveling to Texas. Flying out tomorrow, but got to get to my parents' house tonight because we're going down there to ride with them out to JFK tomorrow. So Ryan Yarbrough, as I mentioned, did throw 2/3 of an inning just 3 days ago, worked the day before that for a full inning as well, so we're probably not getting more than an inning or 2 out of Yarbs. I think I've got it at 3, so we'll be surprised to see him even hit these points on the projection scale. And just an 11% swinging 11% strikeout rate with a 7.5% swinging so far this year. Does have a 2.56 ERA with a 4.88 xFIP. Maybe he takes the top off the Giants lineup once over 3 innings, and then you just deal with whoever comes out of the bullpen to follow in bulk relief. But doesn't look like a playable part to me at 5,200. I don't think you're getting enough depth to book the win or anything along those lines. Logan Webb on the other side. Tremendous for the money. 8,300, 8,400. I know the strikeouts are down this year, a little bit problematic, 22.8% last year, down to 18.6. That's lower than it was 2 years ago also. Swinging strikes are down a little. CSW is down a little. But he's very good at keeping the ball in the park, very good at keeping the ball on the ground, despite some hard hits, despite a little exit velo. 1.5 degree average launch this year, 0.6 last year, 3.1 the year before, a 1.40% home run rate that year, 2.35 coming forward in time, and just a 0.88 so far this year. 3.38 ERA with a 3.17 xFIP. Stuff Plus has a very healthy respect for the arsenal across the full arsenal, 13 points better than average. Pitches very deep into games. It's just the opponent. It's the only real thing to worry about. Last time out, 7 innings, gave up 2 earned on 8 hits, 3 total runs, struck out 6, walked 2. That was against Cincinnati. Messy one against Philly and a messy one against Boston the 2 starts before that. Exactly 4 runs in each of those games. Struck out 6, just went 4 innings against against Philly. Struck out 4, walked 3, 4 earned runs on 9 hits against Boston. Only lasted 3 2/3. 4 straight starts before that one and the most recent one were all 7 innings plus. He's gone at least 7 innings 4 times, and he had an 8-inning start in there. Just 4 or 5 strikeouts across those games. But across all of those games, he's given up, 5 earned runs in 5 starts that have lasted at least 7 innings. Logan Webb has the potential to be very, very effective even against the Dodgers for the money. 8,300, we don't need a ton of strikeouts. We just need those innings. 8,400, even against the Dodgers, give me 4 strikeouts and 7 clean innings. Dodgers are going to need to win the game for him, but at least you get the quality start bonus upside on FanDuel. I think he's in play on both sides for the money. He's very cheap for the talent. 53 1/3 pitched in 9 starts. That said, if you're rostering Logan Webb, especially in any significant way, you definitely want to hedge with some Dodgers. They're spectacular. Still rank out as one of the top teams overall on out of the 14 on the slate. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, superstars. Will Smith, best catcher in baseball. Hits cleanup every day. 4 home runs, 168 ISO, 142 WRC+. Low strikeout rate, great walk rate. Crushes the ball when he makes contact. 5,300, 3,700. Correctly priced. Him, Teoscar Hernandez, Max Muncy make for a good 3-man if you want a little bit more affordable version of the Dodgers. That said, on FanDuel, you can bolt Freddie Freeman onto that for cheaper prices than all 3 of those guys and just build from him down for kind of a fair price. Who was it that I said was not particularly cheap? They're in the 3,000s. Was it the Cubs? No. Wasn't the Rays? Was it the Guardians? No. Damn. Wasn't the Yanks. I forget who I said that about. But considering that these 4 guys are at a similar price level to the team that I said that about, that's not uninteresting. They'll probably be a little bit under-owned. I expect Webb will get some popularity, more popularity than you usually see for a pitcher against the Dodgers. Probably a little both-sided on that one. Max Muncy at 52.37, tons of power upside on the any given slate. Same with Teoscar. That said, Logan Webb, very, very good at checking home runs. So we question this a little bit. That's reflected here. Shohei still breaking out to a 6.15 because he's unstoppable. 12 home runs, a 320 ISO, a 211 WRC+. Muncy's at just 4.27. He's got 11 homers, a 249 ISO. There are tremendous power bats. Any one of those guys could hit a home run against Logan Webb. It's not impossible. It's just less likely. Andy Pajas, 4,300, 3,200. He's been pretty good. 4 home runs on the season, 188 ISO, 118 WRC+, 271, 311, 458 over 106. Gavin Lux, James Outman, a little bit more shaky, but a lot of talent from the left side of the plate for very cheap prices. Either one of those guys is a capable enough wraparound. Each one of them has speed, a little bit of power upside, so not bad options down there. These 2 guys are playable in any circumstances against any pitcher. The Giants, don't think we have that lineup either. I think they're playable. Yarbs is not, there's at least plenty of contact available against Yarbs. Doesn't have a great arsenal, only 11.7% strikeouts, no real swinging strike threat. This lineup's just decidedly kind of in the middle. Tyler Estrada is okay. There is talent there. He's got 6 home runs, but he's underperforming in the triple slash, so it's affecting his overall upside and run creation marks. Matt Chapman is super inconsistent, but still makes very good contact. He has 5 home runs, 3 stolen bases, but 25% worse than average creating runs. Wilmer Flores in 128 this year only has one home run, a .081 ISO, not making Wilmer Flores like contact, not driving the ball and hitting home runs. 30% worse than average for run creation so far. I skipped over Lamont Wade because he's fantastic. 473 on base, creating runs 70% better than average. 323, 473, 434. 21.4% strike walk rate next to a 22.1% strikeout rate that was better last year. Obviously, the walks were also lower last year. But makes very good contact, capable of hitting the ball for power, gets on base significantly, very good correlated scoring play without a lot of help in the lineup. Elliot Ramos for 2,800, 2,100. Very interesting on FanDuel for the money. Same on DraftKings, it's just a little higher relative to the cap. High-end prospect, over 26 plate appearances since they called him up, 320, 346, 360. He's created runs 8% better than average. Stole a base. Hasn't really gotten all that involved, but scored some runs, drove in a couple, stole some bases. Still very cheap if he's hitting fifth. 4.41 in the home run model. Luis Matos, Casey Schmidt, Tyler Fitzgerald, Jackson Reitz rounding things off in this projected version of the lineup. Everybody is very, very cheap, considering this is basically a bullpen game. I think you can mix and match your way through some Giants shares. It's just the bottom of that lineup is not all that appealing. Fitzgerald with a little bit of positional flex for just 23 on FanDuel. 42 seems a little bit out of order on DraftKings, considering where everybody else is priced on this slate. That's kind of weird. Like, especially if you're looking at outfield, if this is the batting order, I'd just rather have Ramos for 28 than 42 for Fitzgerald down there. Wilmer for 35. Matt Chapman for 41. Everybody in this lineup is cheaper than him? That's weird. So, Logan Webb on the board for sure for a fair price. Dodgers are on the board against, but with diminished power upside, possibly. Yarbs, whoever follows, not really on the board, and some Giants bats are on the board. And that's a slate up and down, guys. Hope you're taking the train to Middletown and not Red Bank. Red Bank train station is a little sketchy at night now. That's not my experience, Lair. Red Bank train station is like surrounded by like rich yuppies and stuff. And commuters coming back from work. Maybe you had a bad experience, but yeah, no, I am actually going into Red Bank. That's slightly closer to the house. Our house is like exactly in the middle of the two, basically. Slightly quicker to get to Red Bank. Longer train ride for me, but easier for the folks to pick up. But yeah, Red Bank's not sketchy. Red Bank's Red Bank. Super affluent suburban town. Framber Valdez, top of the board against Oakland, 92.88. Crazy low priced for his talent. Expect a big start there. 10-5 for Lopez, 9,800 on the DraftKings slate. Gettable Yankees lineup. Definitely some strikeout upside for Lopez. Got to be on his game to get through the Yanks a few times, but last few nights I've gotten into like 10, a little sketchy. Fair enough. I'm usually there a little earlier than that. I'll take your word for it. Lopez, 10-5, 9,800. Very solid projection. Just, again, going to have to be on form to get through that Yankees lineup a few times, but the upside is there for him. Tanner Houck, significant ceiling, has been pitching really well. He's just really, really high priced on FanDuel, but a lot of justification, a lot of ability to book the quality start, find the win against Tampa Bay. Logan Webb, fair price against the Dodgers, right in that yellow zone there for 84, 83, cheaper than some of the other options on the board. Taj Bradley is just weirdly priced at 10-3 on the FanDuel slate. So is Charlie Morton at 10-7, going up against capable enough competition, especially Bradley. Like I can buy Charlie Morton being high priced a little bit more than Bradley. I think DraftKings has it right. Morton for 84, Taj Bradley for 8,000. Puts them both in play on the DraftKings slate more so than on FanDuel. I would expect they'll be both low owned with ceiling on the FanDuel slate though. Either one of those guys has strikeout upside. Either one of those guys could win the slate on FanDuel. It's just they really have to spike the ceiling game against those prices for Webb, for Framber, for a similar price for Pablo Lopez, Tanner Houck even at 11,000. There's just more upside. John Gray at 97. You could say similar things on the FanDuel slate, especially against a low strikeout Cleveland team. For 7,500, I think I've made it clear that he's probably my favorite bargain bin option on the DraftKings slate and should be super popular and paired with those other pitchers a lot of times. Morton, again, rough on FanDuel at 10-7. definitely playable at 84 on DraftKings. Stroman against Minnesota, a lot of ability, could find a strikeout upside game. I think there's more strikeouts hiding in that lineup, but they've been good for run creation. There are some power hitting lefties to worry about in that lineup. He's given up more home runs than he usually has. 79.86, fair enough price to find out. Canning for me is not really all that appealing, but I get it for a hitter price at $5,500 on DraftKings. Had to put him on the board from the value bin. Same with Javier Assad, despite the matchup against the Braves. Either one of those guys is a lot rougher on FanDuel. $6,500 for Canning is very, very cheap, but the likelihood of getting to the quality start and having a really good day is pretty low. Assad for 86, I think, is just a little bit high priced. That said, it is that weak version of the Braves lineup, so there is a little bit more believability that could just be another Assad day where he strikes out 3 but manages to pitch 6 clean innings. Yarbs is a no, too short. Aaron Brooks is a no because he's not a major league pitcher. Carlos Carrasco, maybe from a few years ago, would have been on the board. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. I will do my best to have a great time in Texas. Should be a fun wedding. Hopefully no issues trip-wise. I think we're flying into rain in San Antonio tomorrow, which sucks. Hopefully it just doesn't delay the flight. But yeah, appreciate that, guys. If you weren't here at the top, be gone tomorrow and Thursday and Friday this week, and then no show probably on Monday as well. Monday's a travel day back, but I can't imagine I'm going to be back early enough to do a show for that one. But projections, content, all that stuff will be up on the website, and then we'll be back in action on Tuesday of next week. Quick look at the home run board before we split. Bunch of Astros. We saw the power for them. Altuve, Tucker, Alvarez all over the magic number. Jainer Diaz also over the magic number. Love that catcher option. A little bit further behind, Alex Bregman, who's been rolling for power over the last couple of games, 9.46 in the home run model. Not far behind John Singleton if he's in the lineup at 8.33, 7.37 even for Trey Cabbage. There's a ton of power showing against that pitcher for Houston. Love that option, but they're going to be popular. Rafi Devers, home run pick of the day, I guess because I'm a coward and didn't take Jainer Diaz like I wanted to. Don't know why I did that. I didn't take Nolan Gorman because he's very, very popular and just seemed obvious. I like to mix it up sometimes and not go with the most obvious, most popular guy. That's why Jainer Diaz is really appealing there. But Devers is a little bit more justifiable. Like if I want to make it real, more realistic, I think there's a ton of upside for Rafi Devers there. I like the Boston stack. Tyler O'Neill not far behind in the home run model. You get Willie Abreu right there. You get Jarren Duran even as the leadoff man down here. A little bit more power from Garrett Cooper. A lot of pop showing for Boston. A lot showing for Houston. Yankees right where they typically are. The 3 above the magic number. Soto, Judge, and Stanton. And then Gorman, as well as the other St. Louis, the 2 St. Louis righties, and then some of the other St. Louis lefties showing some power. Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan. It's just St. Louis has burned us so many times. Even Vegas is on that bandwagon. 4.42 implied total against an equally gettable pitcher with all that lefty power in that lineup. They've just been scuffling so much that they're not at a 5+ total against a 5+ kind of pitcher. Big yes for Stacks, big yes for Stacks, big yes for Stacks. Moderate, uncomfortable yes for Stacks. And then teams like the Yankees are on the board. The Red Sox are definitely on the board for stacking. Cubs, if you wanted to be contrarian against Charlie Morton, I could see some success. Guardians against John Gray, I can definitely see some success. Dodgers are obviously on the board as usual. That's it, gang. That's it for me up and down. Ducking, you're welcome, buddy. I appreciate you. Hit the like. Check out the description for some info. Check out our pals over at acemind.io if you haven't already done that. Promo code rotoscouts, all in caps, gets you 20% off your first month. Sims, optimizers, they do have a WNBA tool up, by the way. I noticed that yesterday. NBA's up there, MLB, and all the other major sports when they're back in action. With that in mind, guys, good luck out there tonight and over the next couple of days. Check the website for content. Somebody go win something over these next few days, all right? I'll see you when I get back.